forgive me for the pronunciation, Lev Tsarevich Theremin, eventually changing his name to Leon Theremin, was an electronics engineer, I believe, in Russia. Found out that as he was doing experiments with in various lab work, that when he moved his hands around the electronic equipment, it changed the readings and the output that it was getting. And also discovered that if that was generating a tone, even by accident, that movement of his hands in the electronic, in the magnetic or the RF field of the equipment could actually make a melody. He made an instrument and very much impressed the Russian dignitaries and was encouraged to continue development, and eventually came to the U.S. For other reasons as well as presenting his inventions. Unfortunately, he was doing spy work for the USSR as well. So it worked out as a double purpose, but his interest in music was enough that it really did continue to push him to developing various instruments. This instrument is played without touching it, except for when I have to get it ready to play. The left hand, by the loop over here, controls the volume. And the right hand, near this rod, controls the pitch. The pitch is infinitely variable from, 0 if you chose. Right here, there's nothing. As I move closer, he sold the project to RCA, and they marketed it in various combinations, either as a single theremin or as a theremin with radio combination and other things. They marketed it as an instrument that anybody could play. If you could whistle, you could learn to play the theremin. They sold quite a few for a while, and then soon people realized that it made more squeaks and squawks than it made music, unless you were so dedicated to learn to adjust to learn to move your hands very, very precisely. After they had realized that their sales had dropped off, they discontinued it, and to this day, the actual RCA theremins are very, very rare and very, very costly to obtain. They were not a professional instrument to play. In other words, the alignment of pitch to movement. If I'm here and I spread my fingers, I get that fourth. If I'm here and do the same thing, I get that same fourth. Same thing. So the linear control of this instrument is very carefully regulated. The volume of the old RCA instruments was slow in reacting, so you might lift your hand up and it would be a full second or two before you got volume, whereas this one is instant. So they're wonderful attractions, they're wonderful collector's items. Some people have modified them so that they're better for actual real playing, but they're very rare and hard to come by. This instrument is what was called the Moog Etherwave Pro. They no longer make anymore, but it was sold as a professional model with very good alignment so that you could play it very accurately. There's a wonderful book, Theremin, Ether Music, and Espionage, that goes through Theremin's entire life and history including his spy work and subsequent imprisonment by Russia, for whatever reason, in Siberia, and eventually returned to civilization and eventually did some more inventing. But it's an interesting, fascinating book, and it talks all about the RCA project and the length of time of its development and that sort of thing. The original ones were vacuum tube.
The new ones are solid.
This is solid. This instrument is solid state, but it still uses the same principle, which they call heterodyne. There's two oscillators that beat against each other, and that what we hear is the result of two oscillators beating against each other and making a frequency.
The difference.
The difference is what we're hearing in this tone here. I have an earphone here. We call that pitch preview. If I were to take that off, I could probably come fairly close to getting the pitch I wanted. No. So I had to guess at it just a little bit. Clara Rockmore who was a very accomplished thereminist, would very quietly find her pitch that way, and she was able to do it so quietly that you can't hear it in recordings unless you very carefully listen. This earphone gives me the pitch all the time, so when I get ready to play, I don't have to guess at it quite so much, which is certainly advantageous. I mentioned Clara Rockmore. I can't leave her out of the picture. She was a virtuoso violinist at like age 3 or 4, but because of developmental bone structure issues, she was not able to continue with the violin. And through her acquaintance with Theremin, she took up this instrument and became a real virtuoso with it, was able to play some very advanced pieces of music for violin and other instruments, and played several pieces with symphony orchestras and other things. There's still at least a couple of albums of hers available now, and they're fantastic.